Hello and welcome to Divorced Women Creating Peace. I'm your host, Velma Gallant. Super excited to have you here. I have another amazing guest this week to share with you. She's a personal friend, and we've got a lot similar in our stories, and there's a lot different in our stories. And so I'm really excited to share her. And she's another amazing woman who has found some wonderful blessings for herself after divorce. So Denise Richards is the founder and owner of IndiGo Creative Coaching, and she lives in Phoenix, Arizona. Denise is a certified professional coach who has thrived through 3 successful career changes, 2 major relocations, and is also a breast cancer survivor. Denise brings a depth of knowledge, wisdom, and a unique perspective on mindset and being as she has at mindset and being as she works with spiritual women to explore their powerful lives and purposes. So welcome to the call, Denise.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here with you, Velma. My pleasure to be here.
So we're going to start out with the usual question, the one that I think is really important and very valuable. What was your most valuable lesson from your divorce, and what made that so valuable for you?
Well, I can say this now, and just to say that today is the 3rd anniversary of my divorce. So when we picked this calendar date, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it's on that day. But the most valuable lesson is that life happens for us, not to us.
Mm-hmm.
And I also believe that with each challenge, there's a breakthrough that follows.
Okay. I would agree. So what the lesson of life happens for us, not to us, and knowing that these events create breakthroughs for us, what made that so valuable for you?
Well, I believe it's something that I had learned through different trials in my life. So when the shock of the divorce was fresh and new, I knew I would be going through a lot of pain, but just kept holding on to that thought. I will come out of this. There will be something to learn. And I think the valuable lesson is that so often we just tolerate. We grow a tolerance for an existence that maybe offers some security. And so we hang in there. And then when the apple cart got turned upside down, we all of a sudden say, okay, pick up and move on. And with the faith, true faith that there will be a breakthrough.
I connect quite deeply to that, because I know in my own marriage there was a lot of tolerance of things. And it's interesting, one of the counselors that I worked with in the early days, we were going through and I'm like, this was a red flag from before we got married, and this was a red flag during our marriage. And he looks at me and he goes, those aren't red flags about him, those are red flags about you and what you were willing to tolerate. Right. So that really connects to what you said there about the tolerance.
Oh, absolutely. And the time sense, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of people go through this. You have to go through that self-analysis, but getting to a place where you can forgive yourself for having tolerated it. I believe that's the way to healing.
Right. And that again makes a lot of sense, because I know in a lot of forums and stuff for divorced women, there's a lot of talk about forgiving the partner and the anger and the bitterness. And I think once some of that subsides, because we are going to experience that, right? There is going to
Absolutely.
very likely going to be that part of the experience. And I would agree with you regarding the forgiving of self, because I know that in my experience, when I looked back, I came to understand that I stayed, and this is again part of that tolerance. I stayed in the marriage longer than I should have, because I had this belief that if I didn't fix that marriage, then I was a failure. Because for me, it was my second divorce.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something similar to what you might have experienced, or what were
Oh,
some of the things that came up for you?
absolutely. I mean, I felt like I did feel like I needed and wanted this marriage to work. Um, I just, and I think it's even coming from a family background that my parents, well, before they died, I think they hit their 65th wedding anniversary, and my sister has just celebrated her 50th wedding anniversary, and another sister is 45th wedding anniversary, and I was with my ex-husband for 30 years, and so it was like, this is the cloth I'm cut from, that you're committed,
Mm,
and that you don't break things apart, and that you make things work.
right. Yeah. Well, and that would align with, the belief of, if I don't do like everybody else has done, then there's something wrong with me. Why can't I do
Yes.
that? Kind of thing. I know for this month, it would have been the 33rd anniversary of my first marriage and the 23rd anniversary of my second marriage.
Wow. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's incredible the pressures we put on ourselves, and there's always that trappings of security. I mean, I got
Hmm.
divorced at 65 years old. It certainly wasn't my retirement plan.
Right.
So, but
I,
here I am, and yeah.
so so what I'm hearing there, though, is that even though this has impacts on our security, right? Because it was the same thing for
Mm,
me, not the same way, but there was a security to staying, but there was also a security to leaving as well, because I got to make choices that were what is best for me. So what are some of those choices that you started making for yourself when you started moving into that next part of your life?
that was about self-respect. Be
Ooh.
Yeah, that was about self-respect, that I well, there was an affair by him, and it was long term. There are times when someone has something that they might call, "I really made a mistake," but no, it was a long term, and that just made me realize that, you know what? Neither of us are happy, and even, and like I said, it really came down to have enough respect for myself and enough self-love to move on, as scary as it is.
Mhm.
So that,
Right.
yeah.
Right. And I'm hearing a lot of really layers to it. Like there was a tolerance, and acceptance of what was not quite right, and I'm just going to live with this.
Mhm.
There was the safety or the security of staying in this place that's not quite right. And then as you moved out, then there was the forgiveness of self, that you stayed there as long as you did, and a reclaiming of your self-respect by making that choice as well. Is that accurate?
Yes. 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 I I can say I feel much better about myself. And I think that it was, what are we saving here? Like, you
Mhm.
know, like what I thought was important to stay in the marriage for, just suddenly there was a different light shining on it, right?
Mm.
And I could see it more clearly. I could see my marriage more clearly. Like, what was I clinging to?
Do you think you were clinging more to the beliefs you were raised with, for your family background, like the way your parents were, the way your siblings were, that it's like if I leave that, then I'm not as good as I should be, or
There was, I mean, that was in the background. I think that was more in the background when I was staying.
mm,
But then when
mhm,
it came time to leaving, that that no longer, like, that was like, okay, uh, you know, I'm doing the right thing for me. Um, so no, I can't say that that continued to be on me. And I think to a small degree, both of my parents, well, my dad had already passed, and my mother was in a nursing home with Alzheimer's, so she was never aware. Uh, I think to some degree, I still would have done the same thing, but I know that I would have had some emotional turmoil with, um, not not so much that I would disappoint them, but that they would be worried about me.
right, right,
Not that they were never that type of set of parents that guilt tripped their kids like so many people do.
right.
I wouldn't have felt guilt per se, but I would have felt they would have been heartbroken and worried for me. And so
Yeah,
I was glad that they weren't here to go through that.
true enough. I I know that there are those out there that base their success upon how they compare to their family, or how they compare to their friends, or anything like that. And I know, um for myself, I mean, I came from divorced parents, so that wasn't something that was
Mhm.
going to impact me the same way. I know for myself it was, oh God, here I am, a statistic again. Right, because there is a
Yeah.
fair bit of statistics about divorce and stuff like that, and even more so now than I
Right. Oh,
think even in our
yes.
time.
Yeah.
So, and I think there's even statistics that are pointing towards there being more divorces for women our age now
Yes.
than ever
Yes.
has been.
Mhm. Oh, I agree. I see that in chat rooms and, Facebook groups and
Hmm.
that sort of thing. So I see that tremendously. And in a way, yeah, I was always the different daughter. There were three of us, three daughters that my parents had, and I was the middle one. I've owned businesses in the past. I was the career. They both had children. I got married at 38. Well, yeah, 38, and didn't have children. So I didn't walk the same path as my sisters all along,
Yeah, right from the get-go.
right from the get-go. So and so I can't say that I never had in the back of my mind that I was different, and that I didn't give them grandchildren, and that my sisters were wondering when I was gonna settle down, and, that whole thing in my 30s, like, "Oh boy," so I was used to that.
Hmm.
And then I think when I finally did get married, it was almost like unspoken, "Oh, she's finally settled." she's finally following the mold, so to speak, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a little bit of that. Yeah. But
So how did the divorce or the separation impact some of your career changes? I mean, you'd mentioned that you've had businesses before, so you know, starting another business is something that makes sense for you. How did that impact your career choices after the divorce?
well, in the state I was in, North Carolina, you have to be separated for 1 full year, legally separated, and before your divorce becomes final. And I pretty much quickly decided that, okay, here's the biggest challenge I've ever faced in my life, and I pretty much decided to burn the whole thing down. I quit my job. I had well, 15 years in that was my second career. And I sold my house and I moved across the country to here to Phoenix, Arizona, and started my own business again. And so absolutely nothing is the same as what it was when I was married, and neither am I. It's been a
Mm,
complete transformation. And I consciously did that and just said, you know what? Life is happening for me,
mhm.
and I'm just going to grab it with all the gusto I can.
Well, having been a business owner before, I'm sure it sounds to me like there's quite a bit of tenacity that's a natural part of you.
Yes, 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 yes. If you would have seen me the day I had my double mastectomy at the hospital, and that the nurses and the doctors couldn't believe my survival attitude and cracking jokes and a lot of things, that I've just realized that's always been in me, that
Mhm.
I've always been, a fighter, I guess, you know, that I have that very strong survival. And what I did this time that added to everything, because when I moved, I rented a house for a while and then looked to buy. So I did buy a home, and then the week that I moved into my home was COVID shutdown. So
Oh,
here
wow.
I am in a state that I know no one. I'm not making any friends because it's COVID. Everything is shut down. And I look back now and say what a blessing, because I had to just stay home with my thoughts and my healing process and go
Mm.
through it. And I'm really glad I did that, because it would be so easy to just get busy, busy, busy and do, and bury the pain. Um, and so I feel like that this time in my life, I really, really did like the phoenix burning down into the and then rising from the ashes. I really feel it's been a transformation.
Quite interesting that you left a marriage, left a home, chose Phoenix as that place for you
Yes.
to rise from, right? And I love the perspective, again, talking about how life happens for us and not to us, that it so happens that you had to you had to heal. You had to sit with yourself. You had to sit with the the looking back, the forgiving of yourself, the claiming of your self-respect, the looking at the wounds so that you could make the changes and choices that you made as well. And do you think that supported that that time of looking at self, was that around the time where you started making the changes in this career again, or did you make the changes for your career before you left?
Well, had started getting my certification for coaching.
Hmm.
So that, because I had looked at that certification prior to, with my previous job as a sales manager, and I felt like it would have been
Mm.
helpful, and it would have
Hmm.
added to my skill set. So I felt that, I'm going to pursue that, and I needed to have something that was a thread, like something to say, okay, I don't know where this is going to go, but I had to have something that was like a little bit of a stabilizer, whether or not it worked out. It just,
Mm.
for me,
Okay.
was
Hmm.
that one thing. And so, and initially, because when I heard you repeating it back, and I had to stay home and I had to bear with my thoughts, and absolutely that's what it felt like. I had to. Now I will look back and say, I got to. I got
Mm.
to. I had the opportunity to really, really do so much self-reflection and discovering who I really was. And spirit has always been there. And now I'm just far more in tuned into spirit.
Ah. So getting to spend that time with
Mm.
yourself is gave you a deeper connection to your spiritual connection, your intuition. I would hazard a guess. I love that you're what you're sharing, because what I'm hearing is that within your coaching business, because you are working with, you're supporting women through life changes and challenges, and just in what we've spoken about today, there's you've experienced quite a depth of changes. I mean, there were physical changes, there was locational changes, there was occupational changes, there was marital status changes, there was spirituality changes.
Mhm.
And so, and we can label them as challenges. And I know for myself, I labeled them as challenges in the early days as well, because that's what it felt like in
Yes.
those
Yes.
moments. But like you, when I look back, I do look at it as I got to, I I I got the opportunity to reclaim myself. I got the opportunity to reconnect to myself. And that's what I'm hearing happened for you, especially when you changed locations to Phoenix.
Mhm.
I love the what's the word for it? The symbolism of that in your experience, moving from where you were into the Phoenix, and that is where you rose out of, because you were deep in the Phoenix for
Yes.
a couple of years, but that allowed you to be able to reclaim yourself, and um to claim the parts of yourself that arose out of this experience as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that, when you said the word challenge, and I think just because the use of the English language, that's how we tend to talk about it.
Mhm.
When we really think about it, those are just changes. And life is full of changes. And so they are changes, they are major life changes.
Mhm.
And when you're facing them, we think of them as challenges. Um, the sooner we can get to, it was a change in my life, and I'm coming out the other side stronger,
Mhm.
better. Um, and I knew that heading into it, facing it, I thought, oh my God. And I knew I would eventually grow through the pain, watch some romantic movie that made me cry, ugly cry. There's
Mm-hmm.
no leapfrogging over any of that. And that's why I love what I do, because I think someone helping shift someone's perspective and know that this is it. You sit with the discomfort, you go through the discomfort, there's no way around it. You can't leapfrog over it. You
Mm-hmm.
go through it and take what's in it for you. Like, where are the blessings? And some
Well,
days it's hard to see them in the early stage. It's hard to see those blessings.
our life just exploded
Mm-hmm.
in front of us, right? And so there's still
Yes.
a little bit of smoke happening there.
Oh,
The dust hasn't
absolutely.
settled yet.
Absolutely. And really it is, all the different stages of grief that you need to get through. What got me through it the
Mm.
most was, even heading into this, I had faith that I knew in my heart that I could do this. It sucked at the time, but I knew
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that is, I love the direction that you're
Excuse
going
me.
and working with spiritual women who have that faith
Hmm.
as part of themselves, and exploring their lives, and being willing to look at what their potential purpose is. Chances are that I know what moved me into my spirituality and moved me into choosing my life powerfully, and choosing my purpose was the experiences that I had. So these women that you're working with very likely are experiencing these things as well, and that's the beauty of having a woman like you taking on the role that you have chosen with respect to this. Is you bring so much to the table. I mean, it's your career choices, it's your um, life experiences with the divorce, life experiences with your parents, life experiences with the cancer surviving. There's a lot that you bring to the table, and the courage of your life that you get to come up alongside these women that you get to work with.
Thank you. I'll graciously accept the comment of the courage. I think that one thing we can always look at, there is all when it comes to developing your spirituality, there's usually a catalyst.
Mm-hmm.
There is a catalyst that makes us turn inward, um, get more reflective,
Get
and
the
discover our
opportunity to
power.
get the opportunity to be with ourselves.
Yes, yes, yes. So,
So I really am so very grateful to you, Denise, for coming and sharing the portions of your story, the experiences that you've had, the lessons that you've gained out of it, and what you actually bring to the table for the ladies that you work with. What is the best place for our listeners to be able to connect with you?
oh, well, you can certainly find me on Facebook. And I will say I use my maiden name as my middle name because there's an actress named Denise Richards. And so if you tried to Google search Denise Richards, you're going to see 13 pages of Charlie Sheen's ex-wife. So it's Denise Richards. Yes. And, but also my website is IndiGoCreativeCoaching.com. And just before we were on, I'm playing around with the homepage and changing my logo and stuff. So who knows what kind of condition it'll be in, but it is live. You could still access me there.
Excellent. And so for those of you who are watching this, I've put the link up for you on the screen. And that website again is IndiGoCreativeCoaching.com. So thank you again, Denise. I truly appreciate
so much,
you. And I'm very grateful for you sharing your time and honoring the show with the things that you've learned. And thank you again. And thank you to...
I was going to say, and I'm going to tell your listeners, stay strong, keep the faith.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you very much. So thank you so much for coming and sharing your time with us here at Divorced Women Creating Peace. We have a Facebook group that you are very welcome to come and join us, facebookgroups.com/groups/Divorced Women Creating Peace. It is one of those places where it is safe for you to come, safe for you to be. It is not a complaint zone. This is where we lift each other up and support each other as we get the opportunity to be with ourselves and be with each other. Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you on the next show.